This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Harris and Trump go after each other in a spirited debate.
They're eating the dog.
They don't want that.
I'm Steve Futterman in Philadelphia.
Francine churning toward the southeast.
Life-threatening storm surge.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo defended his actions and centered on his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Missouri State Supreme Court ruled that an amendment to restore abortion rights will be on the ballot. I'm Haya Panjwani.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a mixed day, and investors are going to get the latest on inflation this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Two planes meet by accident in Atlanta, and we remember September 11th, 2001. All ahead on America in the Morning. A fiery debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, with the candidates taking questions on topics including the economy, abortion, the border, and the Afghanistan withdrawal, also taking shots at each other. Steve Futterman reports from the debate site in Philadelphia.
With millions watching, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris engaged and attacked. Every key issue was covered, from the economy to abortion to the Middle East and Ukraine. One of the key moments, as many expected, dealt with abortion. Trump claimed overturning Roe versus Wade and letting states decide was what most people wanted.
We've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting.
Harris called Trump's remarks insulting.
The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that.
Unlike the debate between Trump and Joe Biden in June, Harris was aggressive, at one point calling Trump's presidency a disaster. Another key issue was immigration. Trump accused Harris and Biden of allowing millions to illegally cross the border, and he claimed some of them are eating pets.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Harris accused Trump of killing legislation that would have tightened the border.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Trump also complained about levels of crime during the last 3 years.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made.
Harris told Trump to look at himself.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes.
As far as the 2020 election, Trump continued to claim he won.
I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Harris said it was just the opposite.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Often during the debate, Trump came across as angry, while Harris essentially kept a calm demeanor. I'm Steve Futterman at the presidential debate in Philadelphia.
Francine is now a hurricane expected to make landfall in Louisiana and also impact the Texas coast. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Sustained winds of around 90 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 115 possible when Francine makes landfall later today between Houma and Lafayette, Louisiana.
This is not our first rodeo. We know how to take care of one another. But guess what? Now is the time. Let's do it.
New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell says it's time to hunker down.
Get everything in order. Check on your neighbors, of course, your family members and your pets. But now is the time.
Some energy companies are evacuating offshore workers now and curbing production ahead of the storm. Traffic at the ports of Galveston and New Orleans expected to be suspended through today. Impacts being felt along the Texas coast.
There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge in various regions, especially in the upper Texas coastline. Residents in those areas should follow advice from local officials, including possible evacuation orders.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott
Francine is expected to bring heavy rain and a risk of flash flooding along the coast from South Texas all the way up to the Beaumont region. In the lower Texas coast, power outages are expected and difficult driving conditions may occur mainly across coastal areas.
Texas Emergency Management Chief Nim Kidd says a slew of severe weather possibilities are in the forecast.
And no matter where this storm makes landfall, the east part of Texas is susceptible to tornadoes and severe rain. And we want to make sure that our boat squads and our search and rescue teams are ready to support. But I need our citizens to be ready to respond to this as well.
Francine's expected to lose some of its intensity when it makes landfall, but is forecast to move north with heavy rain into Mississippi before reaching southern Tennessee later this week. I'm Clayton Neville.
Governor Andrew Cuomo in the hot seat before Congress when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy is watching a potentially menacing storm headed for the U.S. southern coast.
Hurricane Francine will continue to slowly strengthen through the day today as it approaches the southern Louisiana coast. This storm is expected to peak as a Category 2 hurricane prior to landfall and then quickly lose wind intensity tonight as it moves inland. Heavy rain and increasingly strong winds will impact the eastern Texas coast into Louisiana and then eastward through the Florida Panhandle. Wind gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour will be possible along that stretch of coast, with the strongest wind gusts of 120 miles per hour in south central Louisiana, where Francine is expected to make landfall. Rain amounts near the center of the storm will range from 8 to 12 inches, with locally higher amounts possible, and this will lead to widespread life-threatening flooding. Francine will continue inland Thursday into Friday while further losing wind intensity, but still producing areas of drenching rain. This system could be stalled over the mid-Mississippi Valley through the weekend. The same stationary front will continue to cause showers and thunderstorms along the rest of the Gulf Coast through northern Florida into Georgia. This will cause a few drenching thunderstorms with scattered thunderstorms across the south part of Florida. A storm will be entering the northwest today. It is already underway first thing this morning with rain along the coast. It will be spreading some showers inland into the afternoon. A few places could be thundery with gusty winds and small hail in parts of Idaho. It will also turn much more comfortable and even cool in some of these areas with highs in the 60s and 70s. That's the weather across America. Nashville, Tennessee will have sunshine mixing with clouds and a very warm afternoon with a high of 91. Cool weather has moved into Pendleton, Oregon with mostly cloudy skies and a high around 70. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Contentious hearing on Capitol Hill involving former Governor Andrew Cuomo by a House committee reviewing New York's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
A report by the subcommittee blamed Cuomo for staging a cover-up in New York to hide mistakes that endangered people in nursing homes in 2020. Cuomo blamed then-President Donald Trump.
From day one, he willfully deceived the American people.
There were about 15,000 coronavirus deaths among people in long-term care in New York, far more than the initial number disclosed. Cuomo got into a heated exchange with New York Republican Elise Stefanik.
There are families sitting here. I want you to turn around, look them in the eye, and apologize, which you have failed to do. Will you do it?
This is not about political theater.
No, this is about accountability.
A report commissioned by Cuomo's successor in New York, Kathy Hochul, said the nursing home policies were rushed and uncoordinated, but based on the best understanding of the science at the time. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Joining states including Arizona, Florida, Colorado, Nevada, Montana, and New York, Missouri's highest court ruled that a question on an abortion measure will be on that state's 2024 election ballot. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
Missouri State Supreme Court ruled that an amendment to restore abortion rights will be on the ballot. The proposal to enshrine abortion rights in the Constitution is expected to widely undo the state's 2022 near-total abortion ban if passed. Judges ruled hours before the deadline for changes to be made to the November ballot. 8 other states will consider constitutional amendments enshrining abortion rights, including Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, and South Dakota. Most would guarantee a right to abortion under fetal viability and allow it later for the health of the pregnant woman, which is what the Missouri proposal would do as well. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The chairman of Southwest Airlines will step down. That story and more when America in the Morning continues. We're back after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a choppy and mixed day for stocks yesterday. The Dow fell 90 points. The Nasdaq was up 140.
Kind of hesitating. I think the market is in this mode of continuing to need almost daily reassurance that the macro's okay and that the consumer's hanging in there.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Investors are all about inflation this morning. The August CPI, Consumer Price Index, will be out 8:30 Eastern. The numbers could help the Fed decide how much to cut interest rates next week. U.S. crude oil opens this morning for trading at its lowest since December of 2021, about $65 a barrel. Prices at the pump should continue to drop. Southwest Airlines planning some big changes, like getting rid of open seating and adding some sort of first-class cabin to generate more money. And now we find out that Southwest Airlines chairman Gary Kelly will step down next year as the activist investor firm Elliott pushes for more of these changes.
These changes announced by Southwest Airlines following a meeting yesterday between Gary Kelly, who is the executive chair of the Southwest Airlines Board of Directors, met with leaders from Elliott Management, which has a 10% stake in Southwest, and has said that it will call for a special shareholder meeting unless there are wholesale changes.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. The insurance industry watching the Gulf Coast this morning. Francine is threatening 4 of the 6 named storms so far this season have hit the U.S. Coastal communities bracing for power outages and flooding.
Starbucks' new CEO is stirring things up.
You know, on his second day on the job yesterday, new Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol, who turned Chipotle around and has been hired to do the same at the coffee giant, well, he released some of his observations about what's wrong with Starbucks.
In an open letter to Starbucks partners, Niccol says that in each conversation he's had so far with employees and customers, 2 truths have emerged. First, that Starbucks is a beloved brand with wonderful people. And second, there's a shared sense that we have drifted from our core. In some places, especially in the U.S., we aren't always delivering. It can feel transactional, menus can feel overwhelming, product is inconsistent, the wait too long, or the handoff too hectic. These moments are opportunities for us to do better.
CNBC's Kate Rogers. On today's watch list, we get the latest on inflation, as I mentioned, with the CPI, Consumer Price Index for August. Markets will hold their traditional moments of silence this morning to mark the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. It's Patriot Day, a national day of service and remembrance.
A reminder to all of us about the power of freedom. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. And we reflect on those events of 23 years ago today when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Scare at one of the nation's largest airports when 2 planes were damaged in a taxiway accident in Atlanta. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
Airport officials are describing as minimal disruptions at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport after 2 Delta Airlines planes collided on a taxiway. The wing of a large Airbus A350 jet bound for Tokyo hit a smaller plane operated by Delta subsidiary Endeavor Air headed to Lafayette, Louisiana, and caused visible damage. Passenger Jason Adams is a meteorologist with WFTS. He was headed to cover tropical weather. Adams says the collision sounded like jarring metal scraping sounds, then loud bangs. He posted pictures of the tail of the smaller plane knocked sideways roadways and laying on the taxiway. Delta says the passengers were rebooked and no injuries or fire were reported. I'm Jennifer King.
23 years ago, America was attacked by terrorists that led to the deaths of over 3,000 people in New York City, at the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports now, more than 2 decades later, activists, including comedian Jon Stewart, are still pushing for the first troops who deployed after 9/11 to get the care they need.
K2 veterans were the tip of the spear.
K2 is a former Soviet base in Uzbekistan, a staging ground for troops to go into Afghanistan. Soviet troops had stored missiles there, and a Pentagon report says the base was riddled with uranium. But the government has not officially identified it as a location where troops were exposed to radiation. Stewart and advocates have been urging the Biden administration to formally recognize radiation-related claims from K2 troops who've suffered cancers and other illnesses, but he tells the AP the government insists on more information.
They are still on a lazy Susan of bureaucratic nonsense.
For Matt Erpelding, who deployed to K2 3 months after 9/11.
We're 23 years since the first day.
He says the government's dragging its feet while fellow vets who were there get sick and die.
At least we don't know.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, September 11th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Reaction to the debate. Democrats are elated. Republicans claim they're satisfied. I'm Steve Futterman at the presidential debate.
Massive wildfires burning in the West. I'm Clayton Neville.
Prices keep falling at the pump. The latest check on the numbers.
The United States and Britain have formally accused Iran of supplying short-range ballistic missiles to Russia. Jennifer King, Washington.
Worried parents scrambled to a high school after shooting leaves one student injured. I'm Katie Clark with details.
Gas is $3.26 a gallon today, 6 cents less than a week ago. I'm Rita Foley.
The reviews are in for Ryan Seacrest's debut on Wheel of Fortune. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning, tracking the latest hurricane. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Hurricane Francine will slowly strengthen through the day today as it approaches the southern Louisiana coast. This storm is expected to reach Category 2 status prior to landfall and then quickly lose wind intensity tonight as it moves inland. Heavy rain and increasingly strong winds will impact the area from the eastern Texas coast eastward to the Florida Panhandle. Gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour will be possible along that stretch of coast, with the strongest winds around 120 miles per hour on the south central Louisiana coast where Francine is expected to make landfall. Rain amounts near the center of the storm will range from 8 to 12 inches with locally higher amounts possible. This will lead to widespread life-threatening flooding, and we'll also look for a storm surge of 6 to 10 feet near and just east of the storm center. Francine will continue inland Thursday into Friday while losing further wind intensity, but still producing areas of drenching rainfall. This system could be stalled over the mid-Mississippi Valley through the weekend. The same stationary front will cause showers and thunderstorms along the rest of the Gulf Coast through northern Florida into Georgia, and this will cause a few drenching storms with a scattered thunderstorm or two across the southern parts of Florida. A storm will be entering the northwest today with rain already underway first thing this morning and then spreading showers inland later this morning into the afternoon. A few places could also turn thundery with gusty winds and small hail in parts of Idaho. It will also turn much more comfortable, even cool across the region with highs in the 60s and 70s. And that comfortable weather will stretch into California and Nevada as well. But the southwest will remain seasonably warm to hot. And the rest of the nation will be largely dry with plenty of sunshine, highs in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris met for the first time in a debate, with both candidates pressing the other on a number of issues, including the border, foreign policy, and the economy, which was followed by a surprise appearance by Trump in the spin room. Steve Futterman reports from Philadelphia on what was said during and after the debate.
For more than 90 minutes, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris went after each other.
She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country.
This business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
When it was over, it was time to let their supporters give their takes. The spin room here in Philadelphia was active. First to come in was Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. He said Trump accomplished everything he wanted to do.
Kamala Harris couldn't answer a simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? She couldn't answer a simple question about what their plan to stop inflation would be. She couldn't answer a simple question about what she would do to secure the border. Time and time again, Kamala Harris had no answer but dodges. So if they debate again, which they might, you'll simply hear the same dodges, or for that matter, you'll hear the lies that Kamala Harris is telling.
Despite what Cotton said, many pundits felt it was a tough night for Trump. When his daughter-in-law, Laura, was asked if it was a great night for her father-in-law, she chose a different word.
I think he had a fine night. I think that this was a night that was absolutely necessary, and I am so happy we finally got to see these two people on a stage. I wish we had 2 more debates. We usually have 3 presidential debates. Kamala Harris has said she only wants 1 so far. Donald Trump would certainly be willing to do another debate.
Democrats had a much different take on the evening. California Governor Gavin Newsom, who in June was trying to defend Joe Biden's poor performance in Atlanta, was much more vocal last night.
This was a significant victory for the American people, a significant victory for freedom, democracy, and Kamala Harris. She exceeded even the highest expectations that many of us had. He was on the defensive the entire night and unhinged.
And former Trump aide Anthony Scaramucci said in his mind the debate last night may have won the election for Harris.
Well, she's going to win the election. We have a lot of work to do. She won the debate, single-handedly won the debate. It'd be impossible to say otherwise. But she is going to win this election. But we have a lot of work to do.
Also making her thoughts known after the debate was someone who was born not far from Philadelphia, Taylor Swift. She said after watching, she will vote for Harris. I'm Steve Futterman at the presidential debate in Philadelphia.
As Louisiana and other states prepare for Hurricane Francine, parts of the West are being engulfed with wildfires. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Close to 7 million acres have burned already in the western United States this year, which is more than double the area that burned last year. In the Big Bear area of California, the line fire with a widespread impact in what is a massive firefighting effort.
We've broken up the fire into geographical locations, Division Alpha, Charlie, all the way around, Branch 5, Branch 10, and Branch 20. We do this on fire so that we can keep a span of control for the 2,000 plus firefighters that we have assigned in this incident, and so that we can give them objectives and line out our priorities around this fire.
Jeremy Pierce with CAL FIRE.
That will help us organize this entire fire and the large distances that it covers.
The line fire is burning in the foothills of the San Bernardino National Forest. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection says that the blaze is threatening tens of thousands of structures. CAL FIRE reporting that the wildfire spanned over 26,000 acres yesterday and stood just 5% contained. Elsewhere in Southern California, more fires burning, like the airport fire in eastern Orange County.
You always feel like you're ready, and then once the situation comes, you don't know what to grab. I'll probably be up all night, just kind of keeping an eye on it, watching and seeing what happens.
Residents spoke with KCAL News.
They're doing everything they can to keep it under control, but with an area that large, it's only so much you can do.
The wildfires are not limited to California, and the National Weather Service issued red flag warnings for most of Nevada because the landscape in much of the state prime right now for burning. I'm Clayton Neville.
More is being learned about an altercation involving police and Miami Dolphins player Tyreek Hill. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports that police have released body cam footage of the incident and police leadership reaction.
Miami Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill was on his way to a football game when he was pulled over for a traffic stop.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
Police knocked on his window.
Like what? Don't knock on my window like why you have it up?
And in about a minute, Hill was pushed to the ground face first.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Damn. What part of Ballot doing this now? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested, Drew.
He was handcuffed and then again forced to the ground, despite his complaint that sitting on the curb caused pain in his surgically repaired knee.
When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand? You understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you. You're a little confused.
That audio is courtesy of the Miami-Dade Police Department. Hill's teammates Jonnu Smith and Calais Campbell stopped their vehicles after seeing Hill in handcuffs and tried to speak to officers, but they were told to leave. Officers briefly put Campbell in handcuffs after accusing him of not obeying their order to move back. The altercation is causing a national debate on whether the treatment was justified. Hill was eventually released after receiving citations for careless driving and failing to wear his seatbelt. Police Department Director Stephanie Daniels put one officer on administrative leave. The South Florida Police Benevolent Association defended the officer's actions, saying that Hill was briefly detained for officer safety after driving in a manner in which he was putting himself and others in great risk of danger. Whereas Hill said in a post-game interview that he was embarrassed and shell-shocked by the situation. I'm Haya Panjwani.
New sanctions over Iran's ties to Russia and the number one oil-producing nation in the world. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Francine is officially a hurricane expected to make landfall west of New Orleans later today, bringing to the Louisiana coastline significant flooding, dangerous storm surge, and damaging winds. Multiple parishes in the Pelican State have issued mandatory evacuation orders where as much as 10 inches of rain is expected. New Orleans is among many Louisiana school systems that will be closed for the next 2 days. While Texas is not where Francine will come ashore, the Lone Star State coastline from Brownsville to the Louisiana border is expected to see several feet of storm surge, drenching rain, and flooding. If the storm stays on its present track, it'll move inland to Jackson, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee, with heavy rain continuing northward into areas including Louisville, Kentucky, and St. Louis, Missouri. Shifting gears, the U.S., U.K., and European countries announced new sanctions against Iran in response to short-range missile shipments delivered to Russia for their war with Ukraine. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
Russia has now received shipments of these ballistic missiles and will likely use them within weeks in Ukraine against Ukrainians.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke at a news conference in London with his UK counterpart ahead of a joint visit Wednesday with top officials in Ukraine.
We've warned Tehran publicly, we've warned Tehran privately that taking this step would constitute a dramatic escalation.
Calling the missile transfers a direct threat to European security, Britain, France, and Germany announced new sanctions, including the cancellation of air service agreements that will hinder Iran Air's ability to fly to the UK and Europe.
Russia has an array of its own ballistic missiles, but the supply of Iranian missiles enables Russia to use more of its arsenal for targets that are further from the front line, while dedicating the new missiles it's receiving from Iran for closer range targets.
Britain and the U.S. say they are imposing travel bans and asset freezes on those involved, including Iranian officials and Russian businesses. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani denies the reports, saying they're propaganda designed to distract from weapons being provided to Israel for use in Gaza. Jennifer King, Washington.
Omaha police arrest a suspect about a half hour after a shooting that critically injured a teenage boy at a high school in Nebraska's largest city. Details from correspondent Katie Clark.
Parents raced to Northwest High School in Omaha, Nebraska Tuesday when they got word of a shooting inside the school during the noon hour. The high school, in addition to 2 other high schools and 6 area schools, went on lockdown while police investigated. A 15-year-old student was injured in the shooting and taken to the hospital in critical condition. Later in the day, was upgraded to stable condition. The suspect in the shooting is a 14-year-old who was arrested 3 blocks from the school about an hour later. Police say that it appeared that the suspect targeted the victim, but no other details have been released on why. Omaha police say that the weapon has not been found and are asking the public's help to find it, cautioning people to call 911 and not touch the weapon if it's located. Student Daniel Westcott witnessed the shooting and saw the victim, speaking on KETV TV Omaha.
Come down this hallway and turn to the next one, and he's just on the ground, like blood just coming out his chest, and the girls start running on trying to help him and stuff.
I'm Katie Clark.
The United States continues to produce more oil per day than even Saudi Arabia, and the price at the pump continues to fall. Correspondent Rita Foley has the update.
Gas is $3.26 a gallon today, 6 cents less than a week ago, a whopping 56 cents less than a year ago. What's going on? Well, the AAA says it's low demand as the summer season comes to an end, and the plunging cost of oil. In several states, you can fill up with gas that averages less than $3 a gallon. It's $2.77 in Mississippi, $2.83 in Texas. The highest prices are in the West. If you're driving in California, you'll pay an average of $4.73 a gallon, $4.15 in Washington State. I'm Rita Foley.
11 states now have gas prices averaging under $2.99 a gallon. Another 13 states are at $3.15 or less. Only 3 states, California, Hawaii, and Washington State, have gas prices above $4 a gallon. A musician from North Carolina has uploaded thousands of AI songs and used fake accounts to download them, scamming money from music streaming services to the tune of more than $10 million. More on the story from America in the Morning's tech correspondent, Chuck Palm.
In what is probably the most unique AI scam to date, a North Carolina musician has been charged with wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering in connection with a years-long scheme to earn royalties on AI-generated music using fake listeners. 52-year-old Michael Smith allegedly used AI to generate songs and automated bots to inflate the listener numbers across music streaming platforms. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in an official press release, through this brazen fraud scheme, Smith stole millions in royalties that should have been paid to musicians, songwriters, and other holders whose songs were legitimately streamed. Smith published hundreds of thousands of computer-generated tracks and then used thousands of fake accounts, known as bots, that he was able to generate around 600,000 streams per day, or $10 million over the last 7 years. Making AI music is not illegal, and Smith has denied any wrongdoing. Follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Now with Wednesday Sports, here's Robert Workman.
Baseball Tuesday, the first-place Phillies used a 5-run eighth to deflect the Rays 9-4. Kyle Schwarber opened the game with his 14th leadoff homer of the season. That breaks Alfonso Soriano's 20-year record, though the slugger had to leave the game in the 4th with a sore elbow. Brewers tripped the Giants. Cubs put up a 5-spot in the 8th to down the Dodgers. Padres sank the Mariners. Manny Machado went deep. He becomes San Diego's franchise leader in home runs, passing original Padre Nate Colbert. 6 shutouts on the evening, including the Tigers rolling over the Rockies. Rookie Kiter Montero went the distance on a 3-hit gem. Royals blank the Yankees. Seth Lugo ties the Major League lead with his 16th W.
I was locating all my pitches. I don't think there was a pitch that I didn't think I could throw where I wanted. It was just one of those nights I had everything working.
7 innings, 10 Ks, and a combo 3-hitter. Diamondbacks shut out the Rangers behind the 3-hit pitching of Zach Gallen and the half pints. The Braves, Guardians, and Reds all hung up goose eggs as well. A's edged the Astros in 12. Orioles over the Red Sox. Blue Jays blew away the Mets. Twins trampled the Angels, and the Pirates beat the Marlins. That's Wednesday Sports.
With sports, Robert Workman. When we return on America in the Morning, ballers head to the White House after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. After 41 years, there's a new host of the TV game show Wheel of Fortune. Kevin Carr takes a look at Pat Sajak's replacement and some changes to the wheel.
Now that America has seen these two on stage together, they can finally make a decision. After months of anticipation, this week Ryan Seacrest and Vanna White debuted as the new hosts of Wheel of Fortune.
And now, together for the first time, here are the stars of our show, Ryan Seacrest and Vanna White.
Monday was Seacrest's first time hosting the classic game show, now in its 42nd season. He expressed gratitude and excitement, and he acknowledged he would have to live up to legendary host Pat Sajak.
I still can't believe my luck in being here with you tonight to continue this legacy of this incredible show with all of you. I also know I've got some very big shoes to fill. So let's play Wheel of Fortune.
Fans took to social media to sound off about his hosting duties, and the response was for the most part positive. Many fans still long for Sajak behind the wheel, but only a few flew into outrage, declaring this is why we can't have nice things. But that's par for the course on internet feedback. The biggest complaints were actually about the newly designed sets, which featured bright computer graphics and lots of flash. Of course, the Wheel of Fortune set had been updated regularly throughout Sajak's run and is now nothing like the smaller beige and yellow design from 1981.
Thank you for being here on my first night. It's been a real pleasure to hang out with.
Seacrest is about 15 years older than Sajak was when he took the stage, so it's an uphill battle to top the record as the show's longest-running host. I'm Kevin Carr.
The national championship University of South Carolina women's basketball team went to Washington for a visit to the White House and a meeting with President Biden. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Welcome to the White House. National champions, the University of South Carolina.
South Carolina went 38-0 after losing all 5 starters from the 2023 team.
4 players scored in double figures. Your bench outscored Iowa's bench 37-0. And here's another big number. The championship game was the most watched basketball game in 5 years, peaking at over 24 million viewers.
Coach Don Staley has won 3 championships at South Carolina. This was their first visit to the White House.
I feel like this is a teachable moment for my team.
Not so long ago, the Confederate flag was taken down from the South Carolina state capitol.
A symbol that represented division and exclusion. That moment wasn't just about a symbol being removed. It was about people coming together, uniting for a shared vision of progress, justice, and equality.
The president joked South Carolina office holders may have some fierce competition if Staley were to run for office.
There were doubts all over about contending for the title this year. But for the record, this is God's truth, I picked you to win.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
On this Patriots Day, we remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice, especially on that fateful day 23 years ago. America in the Morning for Wednesday, September 11th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.